Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Code Control webinar, Is Your Organization Future Ready? My name is Logan Willett, and I am a community builder here at Code Control. And before we start, I'm just going to give a brief little introduction on Code Control for those who might be new. So who is Code Control? So we are a curated marketplace home to Europe's top talent. Basically, what we do is we help to connect awesome digital freelancers with awesome projects from great companies. So our community is over 650 top freelancers in the fields of developers, designers, and product managers. So if, for example, you are a digital freelancer yourself and you're interested to find out more, you can check us out at codecontrol.io, or feel free to leave a comment in the chats, and we'll be happy to reach out to you after this call. Today we are going to be talking about future modeling, and so I'm very happy to present our two guests today. Manuel Funk and Amre Andrash are the co-founders of KNOWEAUX Applied Futures, and yeah, I will send it over to you both to take over from here.
Thank you very much, Logan.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Okay, we don't see your faces, so we will talk to ourselves, and we will shortly guide you through a presentation, and then you can use the chat option down there if you have questions, somehow like raising your arm, and we will always check with you if you can follow us and make it as interactive as possible. So, Manuel, if you can share the screen.
I share my screen, and we will guide you through the basic insights which we collected during the last 3 years while developing our future modeling framework, and leave as much room for interaction as possible. So as Amre said, please let us know if you want to raise a question, or let us just know which parts of our presentations interest you most, and we leave space enough for discussions and FAQ. But before that, we quickly introduce ourselves. Amre, will you take over?
Yeah, so we are KNOWEAUX Applied Futures, a so-called strategic time travel consultancy. And my name is Amre Andrash. I'm partner and co-founder at KNOWEAUX Applied Futures and a learning experience designer. And Manuel, I think that's
I'm Manuel, since more than 20 years in the field of technology, and founded my first company in the interactive field in the late 90s, run and founded several companies from web development services, software companies, startups, etc. And since about 8 years, I'm mainly a consultant and advisor to large corporations, and also innovation labs and startup accelerators.
So maybe to add here, our speciality is that we somehow combine the strategic approach with the creative approach to tackle the, let's say, like left and right brain side, also from both sides. So we support organizations and corporates, leaders, visionaries to rethink, reimagine, and then also to recreate desirable futures, and also train them in capabilities. So we developed a future modeling framework, which is a standardized framework based on 3 phases, 9 steps, combination of different tools and methods from agile working, from strategy, from experience design, behavioral design, all different kinds of approaches, like a navigator through the uncertainties of the futures. And besides this framework, it's also a leadership capability training. And we did several time travels already with around 1,000 participants, so-called strategic time travelers, where you can explore, or who explored the futures of leadership, futures of education, all kinds of different topics, no matter which size of company you actually are. And we had one big program running the last year with a pharmaceutical company called Cocreation, where we explored the futures of value-based healthcare, which was super interesting to dive in all those different aspects of a big corporation to discover and explore the futures in this topic. And on the other
side,
side,
to add on this, Takeda is probably pretty unknown to a lot of the participants, but this is number 8 globally in pharmaceuticals, and they merged with their main competitor. So it was a really merger of 2 giants. And we led this change process with future modeling, because usually change programs just are based on the typical communication programs of change consultants. But what we did together with hundreds of participants, we shaped a joint future of these both companies, and also explored the futures of and disruptions of the healthcare market in general.
No, thanks. So this is like an example for big corporation. What we also love to do, and this is why what is actually like really grounded in our heart, is because we founded KNOWEAUX as we are really like an impact-driven company. We worked with the Catapult Ocean, an impact accelerator with 11 startups to discover and explore the futures of oceans. And so it's really like an exploration phase of where they are part of this accelerator program, and wanted to develop their long-term future vision to start now to fight against big climate changes. And
we helped all these startups to prepare for the big demo day, and this was a big thing for them because hundreds of investors joined in Oslo, and we did this twice, and we prepared all startups to make their pitch future ready. So since the investors have a 10-year or longer investment view, it doesn't make sense to just focus on the next 1 or 2 years. So this is basically a thing we do a lot with startups.
And not just with the startups individually, but we also interconnected the startups. So we create like a holistic systemic scenario with them. So they understood that they are part of a bigger picture. And this is the most important part of future modeling. Besides these, we also implement future modeling in business curriculums, let's say, and explored, for example, the future of education. One of our main topics with future modelings that we discover, okay, how do we actually learn? What will be the future of work and education? How do we perceive as humans in the digital area? And yeah, do you want to add something there, Manuel? Or we continue?
No, this is not just self-promoting. We learned that it's important for people to first understand in which fields you can apply future modeling in our approach. And basically you can take every market, every industry, every topic, every product. Mm-hmm. And we did this, as mentioned before, with more than 40 different organizations.
And individuals.
And a lot of individuals, yeah. And the main question we are focusing is always the future readiness of these individual startups or corporations. And we learned during these many projects before we founded KNOWEAUX that a lot of European and especially German companies are very good in engineering products and also even building digital platform businesses. But compared to the leaders in, let's say, USA or Israel, we as Germans often lack the long-term perspective, the bold vision behind. And this is what we support organizations and startups with, especially in these times of a lot of different aspects coming together. Fourth industrial revolution, exponential technologies, and on top of all these factors, we now have Corona crisis on the table, and this is not the end of the journey. We also have to fully prepare organizations and businesses for climate crisis and other situations. So to make this short, in combination, all of these drivers and factors lead to paradigm shifts in all industries and markets. This is our belief. And we think that no market and no industry will stay the same during the next, let's say, 10 years. And we support groups of people to imagine these paradigm shifts and think beyond these disruptive shifts. And we talk a lot about technologies. We talk a lot about the principles of future markets. We talk about the inability of humans to imagine, for example, the pace of exponential technologies. And we also have a lot of neuroscientific knowledge in our process, because we know that the human brain is not able to think complex systems. So we're pretty, our brain is pretty much made up for protecting our current state of well-being and earning and living and everything. But as soon as you enter the future zone, you have to face this big uncertainty, and this causes fear. And if you do not have a proper process, this fear leads to an effect which we as humans cannot control. It's the urge to stay in the comfort zone. And what our process and future modeling is all about, to leave the comfort zone. And I know this is a buzzword for many years, but actually talking about futures, we learned that a lot of these scenarios which we've seen from our clients pretend to be futuristic, but absolutely stay in this zone of comfort. And future modeling is especially important since we face these disruptive paradigm shifts. And we seen some studies, and they say that only 5% of German and European corporations are prepared for these paradigm shifts and disruptive moments. And another study says that on the same time, these 5% have a 33% higher profitability and 200% higher growth. So this is reason enough to do some future modeling workshops, since it does not only give you a perspective of higher profits and growth, it also protects your company in general, because a lot of startups and large corporations will not survive the next wave of disruption. So shaping the future instead of waiting for the system to shape it for you and adapt to it is the key message. We as humans, we as societies, we as companies, we as startups, we can shape the future, and we should do this, but we need a process.
And maybe shortly to add on there, if you can go one back, Manuel said it's futures. This is important, and we sometimes forget to talk about it because it's so embedded in our DNA already. It's not just one future, as we have different experiences in the past that formed us to this nowadays we're standing here today. We can also from today on shape different future scenarios. So it's important to not stick to one direction and say, okay, this is how the future will look like, but it's more about exploring, discovering multiple scenarios to be and stay flexible in this area. That's important to say here.
Yeah, and it's also important that it's not about future prediction. It's first of all, not possible to predict the future. And secondly, it just doesn't make sense because the future changes anyway. Every second, every decision we make changes the future. So it's not about predicting a future, it's about preparing for many different futures, but we focus on the most probable and also the most desirable futures for us as a human being, for our society, for our company. And this is all about what we're working for, basically. So, but getting back to the future readiness, what do you think is your organization future ready? Is your startup future ready? Is the company you're working with future ready? And I stopped screen sharing for a moment because we want to switch
to the questions that we put in the poll.
Questionnaire. Yeah, the poll.
Did you have a time? Some people already voted. You find the polls next to the Ask a Question section. So maybe we shortly, you can still vote on it if you want. Maybe we shortly go through, like, when you think about the future, do positive or negative images come to your mind? And I like when I look at this, so it's really like 6 people out of, well, we're 25, so, and it's rising, voted positive images. Does anybody want to say something, ask something? Why is this? How do we do this in this? Okay, more people vote positive. That's good because we need a positive mindset to also overcome crisis and paradigm shifts.
Do you have any ideas and questions beside the poll? Do you want to share some ideas over the chat?
Okay, maybe it's in the afternoon. We can also just shortly go through the questions and give our inputs until somebody says something. So how strongly does future readiness influence the performance of a company? Also here, happy to see this, it's strongly positive. Normally in our workshops, we rarely have strongly negative. If we have strongly negative, then we often have quite a hardcore workshop in front of us, because then the mindset is still we still need to work on this positive mindset. So 62%. So how future ready is your business, your organization? Good level of readiness, super low level of readiness. Anybody wants to say something here? I vote again. I can't vote again. Okay.
All right, then
we continue.
We continue. What we will show you next is how our approach is working. So future modeling is, as Amrei said before, the combination of a standardized framework, and it's not just a canvas. It looks like a canvas in this picture, but this image just represents the 9 steps we're going through. In the end, it's a full framework with more than 25 methods and steps behind, and all of them are based on scientific methods. So some of them we iterated and changed, some of them we did on our own, and some of them are one-to-one based on, for example, traditional foresight. And the combination of this framework, which is highly standardized to use it in large corporations and in also cross-industry conversations, in combination with these leadership capabilities, brings organizations to the next level of understanding what might happen. And although we do not see future modeling as a competitor to foresight or design thinking, we created this overview just to give you a first feeling of which principles are integrated in our approach. As I said, it's highly standardized, therefore scalable. It's focused on long-term strategies. It's not focused on the next quarters, not focused on the next year. It's on strategies beyond the paradigm shift, and we create these strategies together. We are not a service supplier. If you ask us to develop a scenario for you, we wouldn't do this. This is the old school approach of traditional foresight providers. We co-created with the leadership team. Therefore, we have 100% buy-in for these scenarios, which is important.
Manuel, just one short mentioning here. If the text is too small, people can't read it. So the words on the canvas was not readable, just to let you know.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. So in a nutshell, it's a systemic, co-creative, and also highly agile and iterative process. We focus only on desirable futures. We never go into the dystopian field of, okay, oh my God, climate change and everything will kill us all, because this locks the energy of people, the creative energy, and also the motivation to shape futures. And the last point, and maybe the most important, is that we do this always with instant implementation and application of insights. So once we travel to the future with a group of people, the end of the journey is always traveling back and making concrete decisions of what we need to do as a team, as a company, to make our services, our organization future ready.
Maybe here, Manuel, a question from the group was, how do you, from Jen, how do you measure the result customer benefit of your workshops? As in, how do you show the CEO that the money is well spent? Maybe that's a...
It's a really good question, because it's always hard to measure the success of things you do right. It's on the other hand pretty easy to measure the failures of wrong or bad decisions. So what we try to do is to avoid bad decisions. And for sure, nobody would no company would admit that they do a lot of failures, but in practice, we guess that about 60 to 70% of innovation projects more or less fail. And the reason why is that they're not oriented on the long-term development of the markets. So we avoid these bad decisions, and we focus all energy in one direction. And this is basically the strategy of most really successful tech companies, and also the thing which makes a lot of interesting startups successful. On the other hand, we also see tons of startups and a lot of large organizations and corporations fail in general because they're too focused and also too forced to make short-term EBITs and revenues. So it's always a thing which is hard. It's hard to measure if you succeed.
But what we can maybe add there is that we always, or if possible, invite the CEO or the C-level at the end of the workshop to take over responsibility. So it's always like a buy-in from the, so we have two different or multi-different workshop scenarios where the future modeling approach goes through different layers of the companies, or it's just at the C top level, for example. And if it's in different levels of the company, at the end we invite the CEO, and the scenarios and all the insights that we gained in the futures are presented, and the CEO, for example, then takes over responsibility and also statement to take over some of these projects into reality. So it's really like a buy-in from the whole company. And what is maybe also important to say, you can't really measure a mind shift in this kind of saying. What we do is future readiness checks before a workshop and after a workshop. So you see different answers to the questions, a learning process along the whole program. So these are the kinds of things that we try to align the future visions that is created with the skill gap of the company. Maybe this answers the question.
And this mind shift Amrei mentioned are sometimes really bold decisions at the end of only 1 or 2 days. We have several examples where we worked over weeks and months in traditional strategy processes with large corporations, and they haven't been able to make one bold decision. After usually a few days of future modeling experience, we see that these bold decisions are possible, and the instant buy-in of all decision makers makes these big shifts possible, which are often necessary. And what we've earlier explained is the iterative process, traveling to the future and back. And we also do this in a smaller, leaner process, supporting companies to deal with the current corona issues. This is a time travel just beyond the virus, basically shaping futures for the next 18 months or less. And both processes follow the same idea and the same approach. It's always 3 phases. It's always 9 steps. It's always 2 time zones. And the standardization makes sure that if you repeat this process within your organization, or 6 months later, maybe while onboarding a new management team or some new members of your core team, you can repeat this process, and you always follow the same steps and can shortcut basically the whole future modeling scenario building. In the end, we give all participants one clear direction. This is called the Future Compass. And you can call this basically a long-term strategic manifesto, which is following principles and not revenue numbers or something. It's the principles of the future market.
Mm-hmm.
Amrei, you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if we answer the questions now or if we walk through. What would you say, Manuel?
Sure, let's dive into the questions.
Yeah, Jeremy asked, what was your experience like when you worked with a strongly negative individual? What worked? What did you change in your Outlook workshop to work with them? This is maybe regarding to the mindset. Well, that's also why it's important. Future modeling is not like a super easy framework to handle. When you go to a workshop, it's actually like super psychological. You need psychological skills. You need to be able to feel the room and also to have a good feeling for the team process. As it's a team process, you need to get everybody in board, and you need to get everybody for a buy-in so that the people at the end of the workshop all walk into one direction. And what we do with these people is, first of all, there's a really long onboarding process. So the people need to trust us as facilitators and also as consultants. And we try to answer each question as good as possible, so we give them a feeling of a safe space. And as we also said, it's like a mixture of brain hacks and also experience design. So the framework is set up that whenever there are So that we, for example, loud characters are somehow asked to step a bit back. People that don't like to talk so much, they are brought through little hacks more to the front. And we have to admit that even though if we say the workshop is or the framework is standardized, each workshop is highly bespoke to the needs of the teams, to the needs of the individuals. And strong and negative.
Maybe the most important thing is the process itself, because that's also the reason why we basically developed this framework, because we've been looking for a agile and lean and still powerful framework out there, and we didn't find one. And without a good process, these negative powers which you experience in a lot of workshops take over step by step, and in the end basically crash your future workshop. Because the main assumption behind these people is, let's focus on something hands-on. Let's do not spend too much time on visioning, because it doesn't make any sense for us. And what we do with future modeling is we cut the whole process in many small and also joyful pieces, and you don't even have time to be destructive. You're always busy in building stuff, and in the end, step by step, even the most critical persons understand that this is really important. And sometimes we have situations where people up front tell us, I'm forced to join this, but I don't believe in it. And in the end, these people stand in front of their team and say, this was the best workshop we ever done, and we should continue. So the process itself was developed over 2 years, step by step, to also overcome these fears and limitations.
Yeah, maybe, thanks Manu. Maybe give us a thumb up if this was answering your question, because I would like to go to the next question of Margot. She had a question: if you avoid the topic of global warming because it's terrifying and too intense to address, how can we tackle this topic with future studies? And it is indeed an intense topic, yet we need more positive narrative to activate people around it. Maybe there to say is, also if we say, or although we say we only focus on positive, desirable future scenarios, it's not a naive process. We completely make sure that people understand the systemic happening on the world right now. And as it's super important to understand about climate change, about now the corona crisis, about also psychological, sociological issues, we integrate this from now and then, every time in the process. And in the beginning, open up the, let's say, call it future quo. And based on this, we create desirable futures. So we make a status quo, see, okay, where are we and where do we go now? Do we want to go from now on?
What you see on the left is the future quo phase, the blue phase, and it's downloading all existing assumptions on future images, signals and drivers, and also barriers. And for sure, we are very interested in issues like climate change, and they need to be part of the scenario, because otherwise your scenario is just crap. So, for example, climate crisis and the consequences of climate crisis, for example, that traveling will be not a typical business option day in, day out for a lot of managers, was on the table for many months now. And some of our clients prepared basically for Corona crisis with these insights of, oh, let's wait, we base our business modeling on cheap flights. This is not a good idea on the long run, because climate crisis will kill this option. So this is basically an example of how we prepare people to all kinds of situations. And climate crisis is obvious for basically everyone, but we haven't seen many strategies out there which integrate the consequences of climate crisis in the current business strategy. And one thing we always do during our workshops, we reframe assumptions. For example, let's take climate change again. Climate change basically has only negative assumptions, and people don't want to talk about it. But it also, like every other driver, has also a different side. And we explore these other sides of drivers. And this is a main factor for success. Most startups, founders base the strategy basically on different assumptions than the general market. And this is also one of the training steps during our journey, that we basically support teams to get rid of wrong assumptions and maybe shape some new possible framings for issues and make opportunities out of challenges.
So it doesn't mean accepting the status quo, but really turning it around and doing the best out of the situation. Yeah. Okay, shall we continue until next questions come up?
Yeah, if we don't have any further questions, we can shortly introduce how this works in reality. And it's all connected to time traveling. And as Amrei mentioned before, it's also very focused on experience design. Yeah. Maybe you can talk shortly about why this is so important.
Well, our services are blended. We do digital and physical workshops. And whether we do a physical or a digital workshops, it's important to address different senses. And because each person, you, me, all of us in this like virtual room, we learn on through different approaches. And we have to, for example, as the future is not there, we have to make it somehow tangible, visible, touchable, smellable. And we don't want to give the people and the participants in our workshops images that we created or some augmented reality or something that we give you, but we want the people to start their imagination and create it themselves. And there are sometimes different senses, like working with smell, mostly, because smell is such an important and strong sense, also connecting memory with their sense. Is important to open up people's minds, and
also, we also support people to get access to their subconscious systems, because what we do basically every night while dreaming is future modeling. We shape different futures while we sleep, and we connect our, let's say, gut feelings to these images our brain creates. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you see this, we forgot most of these dreams, but still our subconscious mind is constantly doing this. So what we experience when we sit together with a team of, let's say, 15 managers, and we ask them, what do you think will happen in the future? They say sometimes, I don't know, but actually their subconscious mind already knows. And we download these assumptions. We support access to these images and share them. And this is a really important first step into strategic scenarios. And to do this, we can shortly introduce some formats we created. And this is, for example, a physical workshop examples and pictures, which we for now do not.
Unfortunately, but will soon if the situation changes again.
Yeah.
But yeah. Maybe to add here, it's highly important to give the people the feeling, the participants, the feeling of a co-creative process. So we create the room, the materials with the people, and that it's also like nicely designed, because to trigger also motivation and the people to interact with the things, nice design sometimes can really help. And also we.
And it's super important to give people, especially top managers. We worked with board members of DAX companies, especially these guys are really suspicious sometimes when we invite them to a future modeling workshop. Also, some of them are often the sponsors of what we do. So we need to build basically a Trojan horse. We invite them to play for a few hours, and this releases their creative power, that the ability which we all have as a child to think in futures. We lose this ability during university, school, sitting in front of Excel sheets day in, day out, and in the end, we lose this ability. And our Trojan horse basically gives them the lightness of feeling like a child again. And still it is very strategic. It's not just a playground. It's a process which is completely directed to results and application. And therefore we created a lot of different workbooks, digitally and analog. We have certifications, we have tons of materials, and also integrate experiential design, things like smells, light, sound, etc., brainwaves. And for sure, we all do this right now fully digital, but we started long before Corona to build these blended learning experiences. Because as we all know, time is very limited, and it doesn't make sense to sit in front of a PowerPoint chart for 3 hours to learn things which you also can watch on a video during commuting or sitting at home. So we try to limit the face time to the core experience of being together in one room. And if you want, we can quickly show you 2 of our tools. One is the platform we are working with. The future platform.
I would say that we have 45 minutes to go, 15 minutes. So maybe Manuel, what do you want to show?
Do we have any reactions on the chat? What are you interested? We can either open it up for questions now, or we can show you the platform and an example of how our digital whiteboard tool setup is looking like.
Any feedback from you guys? Just to mention here, Manuel doesn't see your reactions. He just sees the screen. So show examples, please. So examples of our workflow. Good. Then maybe you can switch to our platform.
I share again. Yeah.
It's always funny for us because we so often have a different setup. So, okay.
This is basically the platform we are using, and we just show a few examples out of it. It's a highly interactive platform which shortcuts the FaceTime as said, and you can use it as a group, individually reflecting your thoughts on different topics. We have polls, we have chats, we have exams, tests, videos, PDFs for download, etc. And maybe one thing which we mentioned before is the future growth phase, where we collect these future images, signals, and drivers and barriers. And with this platform, we can collect hundreds of future drivers and prioritize them within a few hours. So what we do here is basically a market trend research on speed. And since usually using post-its is taking a lot of time to present and reflect and put it on a wall and then vote on it, we more or less fully digitize this process. And this platform is AI driven, so we can get out of hundreds of items the essence of everything and vote quickly on every post. So within let's say 1 or 2 hours, we open fully up and then close down to let and prioritize on the 3 main key drivers.
Maybe
these key drivers, yeah.
Maybe we can say here that this is the blue future quo phase where we open up. And when you go to the next page, Manuel, please, the desirable futures phase, this is then the co-creation phase, where we really go in hands-on. I don't know how much you see there, but hands-on working with the group on, we use Mural here for a digital whiteboard, where we walk the participants through our, how do we call it, like the logbook, through different steps of the desirable futures, including reframing, prototyping, scenario building, challenging assumptions with what ifs questions, and then also building holistic scenarios on these on the mural. Yeah, so it's like a walkthrough. We have different platforms we use, and in the end we go back to this platform again to see in the applied futures phase which steps we take further to really create actions on.
But this is just a very minimalized teaser format of the platform. The platform itself can be a learning journey over several weeks, if you wish, yeah. Leading individually either teams or people through different learning and capability trainings. And in the end, we combine all these insights into actions. And this is where we gain basically the power of the framework. Because without application, it's just a nice game. And there's tons of design future workshop formats out, and most of them never make it to reality. No scenario, no decision is brought from the workshop into decision making. And our process, that's why we call ourselves KNOWEAUX Applied Futures. Our process is basically focused on this step. This is the only thing which counts in the end. If you create the best scenario of the world and you do not take action on it, it was just a nice exercise, but it doesn't make you more successful.
Maybe we can, for the last 10 minutes, shortly go back to the screen share. You just raise questions if you want, otherwise we go to the final of our presentation. And also we can skip there some slides, Manuel, if you share again.
Yeah. Thomas asked for examples.
Yeah, this was already what you did.
Yeah, but I want to add to these questions one thought. It's almost impossible to show examples which make sense to people outside. First of all, these processes are highly confidential because it's the core of the strategy of our clients. Second of all, it doesn't make sense for an outsider to jump into a very complex scenario which was built over days and take just the essence out of it without deeper understanding of the issues and challenges. So we're working right now on a format which makes it possible to experience some outcomes better. But these formats we did so far for corporate clients are hard to share. And first of all, we are not allowed to show them.
No.
Do we want to talk about the academy shortly, or is this?
Maybe just super shortly, as you understand our approach that we have, like the strategic time travels, which is for corporates to explore a specific industry or topic. And the Future Modeling Academy has like 2 different tracks where you can learn as an individual different future modeling capabilities, so different modules that you can put together for your very own learning path out of these different models, all referring to the future modeling framework. And our didactical approach here is based on Ken Wilber's integral futures. So we always start with the individual, check for the mindset. How can we implement the future ready mindset into action? And then we go to the collective side. So it's really like a holistic approach of learning. And if you go further, Manuel, maybe, I don't know what else there. Yeah.
Here is just as an example, some trainings we are offering, for example, managing complexity, critical thinking, system thinking, creative leadership. But these are just examples of our learning journeys. We do either bespoke for corporations, and we start in September also to offer open 2-hour trainings for individuals to join.
Maybe if you go to this one, that's the important part here when you're, no, the up one, please. This one just shows that when you are corporate and you explore your long-term vision and you see, okay, the vision is nice, but we don't have like the skills yet, then there can be like bespoke capability trainings. So, which is highly important that we align the future visions with the skills of nowadays employees. Yeah. And if you're an individual, you can also with us go on a long and really playful and experiential and nice journey to become a future modeling architect in 3 steps to learn how to facilitate and to help those teams to discover the futures. This we already talked about, I think, lectureships in business schools. And you can download the basic instructions for free. They are under Creative Commons, a license. If you want to work with the framework in your company, then please give us a hint. And we see what we can create for you. And if you go to the next one, we have a little because today is, I don't know, 25 degrees outside, and you're sitting here with us on the computer. You get a small little yay discount if you want to join our next Future Modeling Masterclass. It's on the 16th of July. And this will be a 3 hours online class, including breaks, where you can really dive deeper with us into the basics of future modeling structure-wise and also the mindset capabilities. And so whenever, I don't know if you can click on this now, when you go to this URL, you will be guided to a login form, and you type in code control, which is really nice that this works like these 2 names together. And we would be happy to see you there and start slowly to bring this approach further into the world. So we have 5 more minutes. I don't know, Logan, how this...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we can open it up for, so if anyone still there has any questions, feel free to add them on the side, and we'll be happy to answer them. Actually, I have maybe one question from my side. What would be like a use case, for example, for a let's say a freelancer to do like the future modeling?
Basically, the core essence of the approach can be applied to everything. You can also plan your professional career with it, and maybe you should, because also your personal career as a freelancer or employee will be probably disrupted by some issues out there. And focusing on the, for example, the drivers of your personal future and the scenarios you want to shape, to help to shape, is a good thing to do. And this can be easily done with downloading the process and following the steps, and it's fun, and you can do this with friends. But you also can use the basic 9-step approach for a team meeting or something. What we experience that you even without big workshops, just taking, let's say, 1 or 2 hours a month, focusing on the question, first of all, which paradigm shifts might influence our business, our market? How can we prepare for it? And which future do we as a team want to support and shape? These 3 questions might change something in your behavior as a team or individual. And this is the first step into long-term thinking.
So recommending it, first doing it maybe on your own as an individual, and then ask interdisciplinary teammates, friends, colleagues to give different perspectives into your scenario. This would be a recommendation.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, just have a few minutes if there's any last questions from the participants.
Come on, guys, bring it on. Then it's almost over.
And I guess, yeah, in the meantime, where can people find you? What is your website?
We can, also our website is
www.futuremodeling.com.
Yeah,
futuremodeling.com is even easier.
Perfect. I put it in the chat, and up. And maybe we, how do we do this? That we send the people the link to the site and the code.
Yes, I'll be sending out a recap message after the meeting is done. Of course.
Then
and please feel free to contact us with upcoming questions or whatever. We're also really eager to learn if teams work with the approach, if they find it helpful, or if they have suggestions how to improve it. We did a lot of iterations during the last 3 years, and since January we believe that it's solid and finished. So but still we're happy to learn what people need out there, and if the basic idea behind of future modeling supports their decision making.
Perfect. Great. Well, yeah, I think any last maybe messages you'd like to share with the audience?
Shape the future.
Yeah, shape the future. Shape it with us. It was thank you, Logan, from our side for this opportunity. Thank you, Margot. I also wave directly to her now. It would be great to stay in exchange, because this is all about it. It's not working if just Manuel, me, and our network are creating the futures, but it should become more and more people really working on this. So thanks a lot. Keep in touch.
And if somebody is interested, as we said, the master class is a good opportunity, but we also sometimes offer short interactive webinars, because Crowdcast is a great platform for these presentations, but it would be great also to do something on our platform with people. If interested, just let us know. Perfect.
Great. Well, Manuel, Amre, thank you so much for your time today and for this presentation. And yeah, we'll be in touch again soon. And I wish you all and all our audience awesome rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.